Today I am going to try out the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation. This one's the shade 01 Creamy Vanilla. On the back it says medium to full coverage, lightweight, oil-free formula, long-wearing, water-resistant, and sweat-proof. I have used this before, but I've only used it it does come with a pump. I've only used it maybe 1 or 2 times, so I don't remember a whole lot about it. I know a lot of people have compared it to the Clinique Beyond Perfecting, which I also have. Maybe I should do one half of my face with one and one half of my face with the other. If anybody wants to see that in another video, I can do that and see how they compare to each other. But today I'm just going to give my opinion on the Milani. The first couple times that I wore it, I did like it. I'm going to apply it with a Sigma F80 brush. So I do remember liking it, but I think the problem I had with it, I did go ahead and prime my face, and I used this, let me grab it. I used this Femme Couture Mineral Effect Face Primer. You can get these at Sally Beauty. And it seems like a nice primer. I've used it on and off for months now. I will say this foundation, hold on. It does have some scent to it, but I can't put my finger on what the scent is. This foundation, I think the biggest problem I had with it and why I haven't used it so much, if you can tell, it's not exactly the right shade. It's a little bit too, A, it's a little bit too yellow, and B, it's a little bit darker than I would like for it to be. I don't know, they have a very limited shade range. I'll probably try and put up on the screen how many different shades they have. But for this to be a foundation that so many people like, it really does not cater to everyone. It definitely has a limited range. I will say, I think I've used this mostly with a sponge in the past, and at the moment I think that I like when I've used the sponge better. The brush isn't bad, but I've found that the brush works a lot better normally with foundations that are a little bit more liquidy, and the sponge works a little bit better with thicker ones on my skin. I don't know if that's, I'm going to go ahead and try and layer it up just a little bit more, because there are spots like right here on my forehead that I still see pink coming through, which normally when I use this foundation brush, that does not happen. So, ooh, things started sliding around when you start trying to put on a second layer. Not a big fan of that. You really need to stipple this more than moving it around like in circular buffing motions. You're better off stippling it, but even that leaves a strange, I don't know if it's showing up really well on camera. You can almost see every time that I tap the brush on my forehead, which may be because I used extra foundation also. I do have a sponge here. Go over it with the sponge and see what happens. Even the sponge right now is leaving kind of a mark on it. It does smooth out the forehead better, but down here on my cheeks, it almost moves the product. Like here on my nose, I'm having my classic issues again where the foundation does not want to stay in one spot. So this is probably about the best coverage I'm going to get right now. Let me just zoom you in and you can kind of see how it looks. And I will go ahead off camera and finish the rest of my face, and I'll be right back to let you know my final thoughts. Alright, so I have all my makeup on, and I am back to tell you about how I feel about the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 2-in-1 foundation and concealer. Again, this is the shade 01 Creamy Vanilla. I pulled up their information on their website, and it says they have 19 shades on their website, which every store I have ever seen this foundation in only had about 6 shades in it. So I'll give them credit. I think that they have recently added quite a few more shades to this. I would be very interested in getting some of these other shades instead. It says like there's a 008 Porcelain and a 00B Light. So I think that those, and there's just a 00. So those should all be very light shades with slightly different undertones. Like I said, I had 01 Vanilla, but then it skips straight to 02 Natural, which I thought was a little too dark for me. So they added quite a few lighter shades, but they didn't really... This one might have been an okay shade for me if it had had a different undertone to it, if you know what I mean. It looks fine now. I did powder, I did bronzer, concealer, things like that, so it looks fine in the end. But if you're one of those people who's very like, my foundation has to be the perfect shade immediately, I think that's going to be hard to accomplish. On their website, I'll go ahead and tell you what it says. It says, combat under eye circles, redness, and other skin imperfections with this full coverage, water resistant foundation plus concealer in one. A no mess, no drip pump dispenses just the right amount of fluid needed to achieve a flawless look and works around the clock to keep skin looking naturally perfect. So my recommendation is you can either apply it fully with a sponge or you can apply it with the foundation brush, but either way you're going to need to use a sponge to go over it just to even out the texture and make it look a little bit more natural finish. It seemed to kind of dry down a little bit powdery. It wasn't like tacky to the skin when I kept feeling it before I powdered. So I think that you don't necessarily have to powder it. It doesn't say on here that it is matte, which I definitely don't think it was. When I put it on, before I put on powder, I did not use enhancing drops. I didn't use a luminizing primer, so it couldn't have been anything like that, but I felt like my face just had a glow to it, which I think is nice. But if you like a matte foundation or you don't like a glowy foundation, you might want to take that into consideration. It does come with 1 fluid ounce. I don't mean to forget to mention things like that, but sometimes I do. Pretty much every foundation comes with 1 ounce, so that's pretty standard. This foundation is listed at $10 on Milani's website, so it's very similarly priced if you go to a drugstore or Walmart or wherever. It's going to be around $10. So I do recommend it if you can find your shade. I think that the problems that I had were easily fixable, if that makes sense. The color being just a tad off, I was able to fix that with concealer and powder, and now it doesn't look like it's the wrong shade at all. I think that it's a very nice full coverage foundation that you can get at the drugstore. It's much more affordable than anything high-end out there, and I think it looks extremely nice on my skin. I think that the problems I had with the brush applying it were easily remedied by using the sponge just on top of it. So the issues that I had at all were very, very easily fixed. So I don't want those to deter you from your interest in this foundation if it's something that looks like something you would like. So my final thoughts are, if you're interested in this foundation, I would totally try it. Again, a lot of drugstores have a return policy where you can bring it back if it's completely your wrong shade and you just can't find the right shade. The first time that I bought this, I got a very wrong shade, and I was able to return it to CVS and swap it for this shade. So again, I think if you are interested in it, go for it. So if you like this type of video where I review just one foundation, just let me know and I can do more, because I have a basket full of different foundations. So thank you all for watching, and if you subscribe to my channel, you'll see when I upload the next one.